Nice and easy. Check those corners. Check those corners.
Aliens Fireteam Elite is a third-person survival horror shooter developed by Cold Iron Studios, which places you in control of a USCM Marine tasked to accomplish objectives while you battle seemingly never-ending waves of Xenomorphs. The game has a total of 4 campaigns that you can play, with each campaign containing a set of 3 missions each. You can also unlock additional game modes, but they do require you to beat the campaign first. When you first start the game, you'll be sent into the character creation to make your Marine. There's a decent amount of options here, allowing you to change your gender, face, hair, colors, and voice type. Then it's off to the races. You're treated to a brief opening cutscene, and, might I mention, the only cutscene in the game where a colonel monologues about Xenomorphs before you're finally put into the main hub of the game. Let's talk about graphics for a bit. Walking to the hangar for the first time, I was really impressed with the amount of detail put into the environment here. I was really taken aback with how beautiful everything looked. In fact, everything in this game looks absolutely amazing and authentic to the Aliens universe. Sometimes in a campaign, I'd have to stop and take a look around just because some of these sets were so breathtaking to take in. I also loved the way that they had managed to integrate the atmosphere in some of these maps. Sometimes you'd be walking through a corridor when all of a sudden an event just drops in front of you, or a pipe suddenly bursts out some air. In one of the later campaigns, walking through this derelict alien structure, smoke would billow out in unnatural places, illuminated by dampened light that gives off this creepy yet alien vibe as you proceed throughout the mission. The lighting in this game is so well done, and it plays a huge part in keeping these environments interesting and believable. As a Marine, you'll be able to play one of 7 different unique classes that vastly change your playstyle. Each class contains a different weapon loadout and has unique abilities that you can use on your missions. The default class you'll start out as is the Gunner, which is your basic run-of-the-mill infantry class. As a Gunner, you're able to increase the fire rate and reload speed of your fire team with the Overclock ability, and have access to explosive grenades. The more you stay on target and hit your enemies as a Gunner, the higher your passive damage bonus stack will go. You'll start out with a classic M418 pulse rifle and a shotgun, and the kit itself is a jack of all trades, which makes it quite adaptable to any situation and a perfect class for beginners. The Demolisher class, on the other hand, starts out with a smart gun for its heavy slot, and boy oh boy does that smart gun shred. The ability that it provides to auto-acquire targets and spray and pray in the general direction absolutely shreds smaller and larger Xenos to bits. In fact, this is probably the class I had the most fun with trying out due to the smart gun alone. The Demolisher itself is more focused on area damage and disruption, having the ability to fire micro-rockets at enemies, and has a close-range blast wave ability that damages and knocks back nearby Xenos. If you're looking to play something a little more support-oriented, look no further than the Technician, which is a class more focused on defense and area control with its gadgets. The Technician can plop down a turret that acts as both a damage-dealing sentry and as a makeshift tank for the Marines, as some Xenos will go out of their way to kill it. The sentry can be picked up and redeployed, and is also respawnable if it's destroyed, making it one of the better abilities due to the sentries normally being a consumable item that you have to find or buy at requisitions. The Technician can also throw out up to 3 charged coils that damage and slow enemies in an area, which is super useful at delaying Xenos during any horde attack events. Then there's the Doc class, which, if you haven't guessed it yet, is a support role. Your abilities revolve around deploying a stationary trauma station that can heal, provide buffs, or debuff Xenos. The trauma station itself has an energy bar that only replenishes if you pick up a medikit, so you have to be a bit conservative on its usage. Combat stims provide a significant accuracy and movement speed boost for your fire team, which can help in a pinch during a firefight. I personally wouldn't recommend this if you're considering playing the game solo, as this class is very team dependent, and it would be better to bring something with more DPS or utility to supplement your AI partners in single player. The 5th class, the Phalanx, functions as a mobile tank role. While it's only got access to a handgun and a close quarters weapon for its loadout like the Technician, the Phalanx has the ability to deploy a toggleable shield to soak up damage from the front, most notably bullets, and prevent some acid damage from damaging the player, at the cost of moving slower while it's deployed. The Phalanx also has a powerful stun ability in the form of its Shock Pulse, which affects nearby enemies and dazes enemies that hit you for a short amount of time. I find this to be one of the more mechanically difficult classes to play, as you really have to be able to position yourself well and be comfortable with toggling the shield on and off in order to get the most out of this role. The Lancer is the latest class to be released for Fireteam Elite and has perhaps one of the coolest and most powerful abilities in the game, the Particle Lance, which absolutely disintegrates any enemy unlucky enough to be caught in its beam and can be shot at surprisingly far ranges. Its second ability is a self buff that auto reloads and increases weapon damage and resistance for duration. And with access to a loadout of a close quarters weapon and a heavy weapon, it makes this class one of the strongest classes on the roster. The final class that will be available to you is the Recon, which is only unlocked once you finish the main campaign of the game, and is the designated marksman class. Their loadout consists of a rifle, which, if you really want to take advantage of a kit, should be a sniper, and a close quarters weapon for when things get up and personal. The Recon abilities allow you to utilize drones that can scan the environment for hostiles or provide ammo and health to the team. In addition, the more headshots you get as a Recon, you get a stacking focus buff that increases your accuracy and stability for a duration. What I really liked about Fireteam Elite's class system, however, is that you can further customize the kit to your liking. For instance, you don't have to stick with the default weapons that they give you, and can replace it with ones that you can find on the field or buy from requisitions with credits. Weapons themselves can be customized with attachments as well. However, attachments that you pick up or purchase in rec won't be compatible with all weapon types, so you have to be sure that you choose the correct attachment type for your weapon. On top of that, weapons can be customized with color schemes and decals for even more personalization. They can also be leveled up if you use them enough, which provides boosts to its performance in-game. The meat of the customization, however, lies in the perk tree. The more you play a class, the more perks you unlock, and the more slots get unlocked in the perk window. While some perks may be class locked, indicated by the green colored perks, blue perks that are earned while playing the class can be applied to perk slots of other classes. This can make for some really interesting and unique builds, and can encourage you to play other roles so that you have access to more perks to apply to your given role. In addition, some perks change how your special abilities work, allowing for an even greater variety of what a class can bring to the team. But what about the story? Well, let's just say that it's not great, nor do I believe that it's the main focus of the game. The story is presented to you by short interactions with the Marines and staff aboard the ship, as well as during mission briefings and through gameplay. You can pick up intel collectibles during the campaign, which will unlock more conversations with NPCs around the ship that'll flesh out the world you find yourself in, but these collectibles are very easy to miss and really only serve as lore dumps that don't play an integral part in the story they're trying to tell. The thing that bothered me most is about how they present conversations with NPCs. I'll let you listen to a conversation, and you tell me what's wrong.
Freeze off, Marine. We got woke by a distress call. A Dr. Tim Honecker sent a mayday from an orbital refinery. Situation ain't clear, but on the outer rim, there's always a chance of Xenomorphs. Board the station, find Honecker, and extract him. Staff Sergeant Herrera will be the voice in your ear. She'll guide you, warn you of enemy movements, and provide support. Might want to talk to Herrera before you deploy.
Yep, there's no voice animations. I hope you like talking with static-faced NPCs. This was a bit surprising considering they took the time to give the NPCs idle animations, but didn't have enough time to give them voice animations. Don't get me wrong though, I think the voice acting is pretty good, but I think a little more attention to detail animation-wise would have made talking to these NPCs a lot more engaging, and would make me pay more attention to what little story they are able to present here. While the game doesn't necessarily need in-game cutscenes due to how the story presents itself through the gameplay and over radio comments, it feels like they could have been included for the intro and outro of a campaign. It would have been cool to see a dropship or an APC drop us off at the area of operation, but instead, when you start a mission, you just start there. No explanation for how you got to that site, you're just there now. Another example is at the end of the first campaign where, after holding off waves of Xenomorphs, you finally get the dropship prep for evac, and there's simply too many Xenomorphs to fight, so you have to book it to the dropship to escape the horde behind you. You reach the dropship expecting an epic evacuation sequence, but instead, the screen fades to black. The pilot gives you a quick joke before you're taken to the score screen. What an absolute letdown. How cool would it have been to instead have been actually able to see your Marines board the dropship and evacuate, the dropship taking off, the horde of Xenos hot on your tail, with some getting sucked out into the vacuum of space as you make your daring escape. It felt like there was a lot missing here. And even after reaching the end of the fourth and final campaign, I was hugely disappointed with completing the final mission because it feels like they could have wrapped up the finale in a more satisfying way, giving us closure that our hard-won fight actually accomplished something, yet we're just treated to another score screen. This was definitely something I felt should have been included for the campaign to feel more polished. Unlike other Horde games, the group limit for Fireteam Elite is capped at 3 instead of 4. Which seems a bit bizarre, but mayhaps they did this for balance purposes. You can play in single player or invite and queue up online for a more multiplayer experience. If you play single player, you'll be accompanied by 2 synthetic soldiers, Alpha and Beta, who will supplement your fire team. They're decent in combat and can hold their own in standard difficulty, but you'll struggle a lot with them in higher difficulties. Their AI is said to follow you around and have a tendency to run in front of you while shooting, which can become annoying in difficulties that have friendly fire enabled. I do recommend playing with friends or randoms if you are able to, as you'll have a much smoother experience during gameplay. Speaking of matchmaking, at the time of recording this video, matchmaking can be a hit or a miss during some times of the day. Queuing up to play with others can take you anywhere from a minute to half an hour to find a game. There is a future update coming out very soon, though, that will allow crossplay for Fireteam Elite, which will make matchmaking a lot faster when it releases. Each mission has a recommended CR or combat rating level, which is a level that's based upon how many perks and attachments you currently have for your role, on top of having a difficulty setting that you can change for the mission. The CR level is just a recommendation and not a requirement, and I could still find myself clearing missions in single player with ease despite not meeting the combat rating proposed. You can set the difficulty to casual, standard, or intense at the beginning, with additional difficulty modes being unlocked when you beat the campaign. I played the campaign solo at standard difficulty, and I didn't have any problems or difficult areas in the game that I couldn't overcome with AI bots. However, the intended difficulty and how the game was meant to be experienced is intense difficulty, which I recommend tackling with an actual group. In intense difficulty, aliens are not highlighted with a silhouette when aiming down the sights, making them harder to see. You'll have to rely more on your motion tracker and audio cues to locate where the Xenos are coming from. In addition to Xenomorphs having more health and damage, light friendly fire is enabled, so you really have to be careful with your shots to not hit anyone accidentally. I do recommend playing through standard first before tackling intense, so you can build up more knowledge about the maps and raise your CR in order to be able to tackle intense mode comfortably. Optionally, you can also add a challenge card before starting a mission. These cards can be acquired from doing dailies or can be purchased from requisitions, and provide either a beneficial or detrimental modifier to the mission, which, if you complete it, will yield additional rewards. Some of these modifiers are really interesting and can shake up the gameplay a bit, including things like changing what enemies you encounter during the mission, restricting your abilities or certain loadouts, or even applying filters over your gameplay. For instance, I applied a modifier that would give me credits and experience if I had synthetics and mix of enemies, and boy did it make the mission more interesting as I had both Xenos and androids now to contend with. I found that these challenges were a great way to break up the monotony, providing a great way also to spice up a campaign, and the rewards weren't half bad either. As for the core gameplay, it is definitely one of the main selling points of the game. You'll be cutting through swarms of Xenos to accomplish your objectives, using your loadout alongside your class abilities in tandem with your teammates to overcome hostile encounters on the way to your goal. The motion tracker on the bottom right of your screen serves as your main method of locating the aliens, though it only indicates pings in a 180-degree cone from where you're facing. The heads-up display here is quite clean and uncluttered, and I didn't have any problems with the HUD obstructing gameplay or problems finding the information I needed. In terms of movement variety, Marines can sprint, jog, climb over obstacles, and take cover behind objects. You can also do a dodge roll as well, which utilizes a stamina resource to get out of sticky situations, or even to dodge pounces or attacks from special Xenos if you time it right. Once you've completed a mission, you gain experience points and requisition credits, which can be used at the requisition shop on the ship to purchase more weapons, attachments, perks, challenge cards, and cosmetics. Then you'll just rinse and repeat. The level design in Fireteam Elite, in a lot of ways, seems to echo the same concept as horde action shooters like Left 4 Dead and Warhammer Vermintide, in which players go through a mostly linear map with climax moments peppered throughout the level. There is some opportunity for exploration, however, as going off to an unbeaten path may provide you with hidden chests that can give you attachments, consumables, and decals, or even intel collectibles that you can bring back to the ship. Enemy spawning and locations seem to be mostly randomized apart from the horde attack events. There are spawn points littered all throughout the map, like vents or gaping holes or tunnels in the ceilings, and enemies will periodically pour out of these, sometimes even when you're next to them. I like to think of this map design as large set-piece arenas connected by service tunnels that shepherd you to the next major event. There is some variety to be had here. Sometimes the enemies you encounter inside an area may change, or you may be instructed to go through a different room on the way to your final goal. The horde attack events usually happen in the larger rooms, and there's one at the end of every level. Just look for the ammo crates, medkits, and loot boxes bunched together, and you'll know you're in one of those rooms. Sometimes these events have to be triggered, giving you time to prepare for the Xenomorph onslaught by planting mines, sentries, or whatever gadgets you have on hand in the arena before you kick the hornet's nest. In terms of how these horde attacks play out, they start by sending in waves of weaker Xenomorphs and weaker specials, before topping off the event by sending the more dangerous Xenostrains like the Warrior. As I mentioned earlier, these events are more often than not scripted. You'll be constantly alerted where the bulk of the Xenos will be spawning via radio, and the order and the direction remains the same regardless of playthrough. In fact, even the special Xenos that they send after you rarely change or vary, and it's always the same special Xeno that appears during the event. After you've played a few times, you'll always know where to look first because these spawns never change, and this does feel like a huge missed opportunity replayability-wise, as you will always know where the bulk of the alien forces will be coming from and what Xenos will appear. Most of these events are usually ended by killing off all the attacking Xenos, but some events require a different objective to be met, such as destroying capacitors, collecting power nodes, or simply running to the exit point in order to survive them. As for the variety of enemies that the game throws at you, there's a lot to be had here. Not only do the Xenos have multiple strains that you could face during a mission, but you'll also be encountering android enemies and even pathogen strains in the later campaigns. Let's talk about the Xenos first. All in all, there are about 10 different Xenostrains in the game, and they all play a different role for the Hive. I thought the Xeno here were well designed and animated. They're different enough as well in terms of appearance to be able to easily determine what strain they belong to, and you have to adapt your strategies to deal with them appropriately. The Runner is the first and most common Xeno that you will encounter in the game. Runners will usually come in swarms, leaping over obstacles, darting out of the way, and climbing every surface known to man in order to get right up in your face to claw at you. They're extremely easy to kill and act as cannon fodder for the other strains. Prowlers are one of the first special strains you'll encounter, and you'll often find them standing motionless around a corner, on a ceiling, and on walls hidden from plain view. They'll pounce at you if you get close enough. If you're caught in one of its pounces, you'll be put in a damaging grapple where you'll have to do a quick time event to break out. If you're careful, you can spawn and kill them before they have the chance to surprise you. Bursters are the ones with the big glowing heads. They act as an upgraded runner with more health and with the ability to explode a large amount of acid on anything unfortunate enough to be close by when it's killed. It'll leave a pool of acid on the floor where it was killed that'll deal damage if you walk over it, so you have to be careful about killing them when they're too close. Then there's the Spitter strain, which will often hang about in the back and lob globs of acid spit in your direction while you're being assaulted by the rest of the Hive. You'll see them actively try to take cover behind obstacles, and sometimes you need to flush them out of their position in order to kill them. The iconic drone makes its appearance in the game as a bipedal Xenomorph that uses hit-and-run tactics when encountered. They'll emit a telling scream before running in to put you into an unbreakable grapple for a short period of time, before attempting to run away and hop into a vent to resume its attack on you later. The Warrior strain is a taller and more imposing version of a drone that is slower but makes up for it by having armor that you have to chew through before you start dealing actual damage to its health. These ones will make a beeline for you and don't retreat, with the ability to put you into a damaging grapple if it gets close enough. The Crusher strain is the tankiest Xenomorph in the roster, with a large pool of armor and health to chew through. This Xenos is there to disrupt your defensive line, knocking you down with its armored head, and is a bullet sponge dedicated to distracting you. Praetorians act as hive guards of the Queen, and stand far taller than any of the Xenomorphs you'll encounter in the game. They act as heavy infantry, roaring and dealing massive damage with its attacks. In Hive levels, facehuggers make an appearance if you let eggs activate and don't make an effort to destroy them. These Xenos will leap at you unexpectedly and put you in a QT grapple. And finally, there's the Queen, but I'll leave it to your imagination to guess what she does. Then there's the androids, which mostly show up during the second campaign. The Wei-Yu androids are the main shooting enemies of the game, and they'll take cover, try to flank you, and have a chance to explode violently when killed. Seegsun's Walking Joes make a cameo here too, and they are the more melee-based androids that will run up to you and beat your face in with a wrench. It's surprising as well that they managed to make specials for the androids. The weaker specials that you see are the Walking Joes carrying shields to deflect bullets, and the suicidal explosive androids that serve the same function as a Xenomorph burster. Then there's the Synth Warden that can lob grenades at you, and the Synth Sniper that shoots at you from a distance. The more dangerous synth specials are the heavies, and these can come with flame units that'll roast you if they get close enough, or minigun and rocket units that can fire missiles from afar, and can shred your health pretty quickly if you're not in cover. The last type of enemy that you encounter are the pathogen, though I found these to be the least interesting enemies in the game, mainly due to how little variety there was of them. The main enemies that you'll encounter from the pathogen are the husks and poppers. Husks are infected humans that'll run toward you like a zombie to melee you, and the poppers are small, parasitic looking creatures that can climb on surfaces and that'll jump onto you and explode. The only special strain that the pathogen have is the Stalker, which uses hit and run tactics and can turn invisible. You'll mainly encounter these during the third campaign, however, there will be an upcoming expansion for Fireteam Elite that will be based around them and will add more special strains to the mix. I want to touch up briefly on the sound design. I think Cold Iron Studios did an absolutely amazing job keeping the source material authentic with the sounds for the guns, abilities, and the Xenos themselves. I mean, just listen to this. The background music stays a bit more low-key when there isn't much happening in the game, gradually building up the score until it picks up in intensity during horde attacks and climax events. Voice acting, as I mentioned earlier, is top-notch, and I really couldn't find anything about this sound that wasn't absolutely bliss to hear. In terms of what microtransactions are available for Fireteam Elite, these are mainly cosmetic packs that can be purchased through Steam for about $12 Canadian, and contain over 20 different theme skins, colors, emotes, and accessories, which have no tactical impact on gameplay apart from making your character more personalized. The unfortunate part is that these cosmetics are exclusive to that pack and can't be earned in-game through playing or through the requisition shop. The upcoming DLC slated to be released at the end of August will cost $15 USD and will include 3 new missions, more weapons, cosmetics, and of course add more pathogen strains to the game. This is a pretty hefty cost considering that a typical mission in Fireteam Elite takes an average around 30 to 40 minutes to complete, so you're really just paying for about 2 hours of additional content. And now moving on to the final verdict. Is this game worth your time, your money, and investment? Should you pass this up or wait for a sale? In summary, Aliens Fireteam Elite is a third-person survival horror horde shooter set in the Aliens universe. Though it's got a very lackluster story, the main reason you'll be playing is for the core gameplay. It's really fun just being able to mow down hordes of Xenos as a badass Marine of the core, and even better if you got friends to play alongside you too. There's a good variety of enemies in the game, and horde attacks can feel really cinematic and epic. The environments and atmosphere are beautiful, and the sound design is top-notch and authentic to the Alien universe. The length of the game may bother some people, with full campaign completion, at least for standard mode, clocking in at around 10 hours, but the true replay value comes from trying different difficulty modes and replaying the game as different roles for further kit customization. There definitely is a lack of polish in some aspects of the game, however, it makes for a great horde shooter alternative to Left 4 Dead and Vermintide. Overall, if I had to rate this game out of 10, I would give this game a rating of 7 out of 10. It's a solid game. If you're planning to pick this up as a solo player, I'd wait for a sale, but if you're planning to play with a friend or two, then I think that would justify the $50 Canadian price tag, as this game is just so much better when playing with other people. With the upcoming Pathogen DLC and Season 4 update introducing Crossplay, I do expect to see the player base spike for a while, and I have high hopes that they will release more DLC campaigns in the future. I want to thank each and every one of you so much for watching the video. I hope it was informative, and if you liked it, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. See you next time. Ryza out.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.